Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Make sure to leave a like on this video down below and subscribe. My name is Alvin. I lead right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side.
My name is Luke. I lean left on most issues, and I'll be representing the Democratic side. Hey guys, so in this video, Alvin and I are going to be giving you our bipartisan predictions on the 2024 Senate elections for the month of September.
Yep, so right now, after marking the safe seats, Republicans are already at 47, which means they only need three more to gain control of the Senate um, with a Trump victory and four more with a Harris victory. So we will see if they can flip the Senate or if Democrats will hold it. Let's start by quickly talking about Nebraska here, which you might have noticed we marked not as safe to start out. And you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention this race. I thought it was notable recently because there's been a bunch of like close polling in the state recently. Most of the initially was just internal polls by the independent running against the Republican, but now we've gotten some more independent polling from Survey USA, and which in fact confirmed that at least for now it seems like a closest sort of race. It's interesting because the Democrats coalesced around an independent candidate in Dan Osborne to run against the Republican here, so I imagine that's why it's so close. And it just really stands out to me because these polls are incredibly close. While Trump is obviously getting his normal, extremely good margins in Nebraska, he's leading in these same polls by extremely great amounts. But at the end of the day, I still think, this is a deeply red state. And uh, in states where the partisanship is just so off the charts in favor of one party, it's really just like it really just tends not to go the way, even when the polls suggest it's close, it tends not even to not to go the way of the party the polls suggest. So I think, you know, I think, regardless of these close polls, I think Nebraska is still going to be solidly in the Republican column
Yeah, we're gonna put
come
solid
November.
unless these undecided voters really go down. Right now, there's
Yeah.
just too many undecideds. But that is not the case in Maryland, where you have another deeply partisan state, yet the former governor Larry Hogan is running a very close race, and the undecideds here are not extremely high, not in the 20s. And most notably, recently you've gotten closer polls. I mean, obviously started out leading against a no-name also Brooks, but then in the middle here. She seemed to take the lead by a good margin. Now, I'm not convinced she would win by over 10. She hasn't even got a single poll to 50%, and she would need 55% here to get to safe. I actually think this, I'm going to put this one as likely this time. I know that Brooks is going to probably do better than the polling just as of right now, but even if all these undecideds, in this, this poll that I'm looking at right now moves to Alsobrooks. I don't know. She would still need to get all the way to 55%. I think right now I would put it in likely just for now, just to be safe.
Personally,
Seems to be doing decent.
I'm still pretty confident that this is a safe race just because Maryland is such a blue state. It's one of the bluest states in the nation, like in terms of just how you looked in how it voted in 2020. It was like D plus 30 in favor of Biden. So I still happen to think that this race is going to be solid by the end of everything. Like I feel like we've heard this story before, like, oh, we have a really great candidate in this really partisan uh extremely dark red or dark blue state, and then it just ends up like completely falling apart. It just reminds me of, like, for example, going back to 2020 when the popular Democratic governor of Montana ran for Senate in 2020 and got destroyed by and lost by like 10 points plus. So I feel like we're going to see another situation like that where also Brooks just ends up taking it by double digits. Sure, I think it'll be closer than the average race in Maryland, but I'm still pretty confident she'll win by double digits.
All right, let's just move on from that because we do not have that much time. Let's move on to the other likely states. I think for Democrats, we can easily go to New Mexico. Not really even a discussion here on New Mexico. If anything, we'd be putting it in safe and not into lean. I mean, it's interesting here because Heinrich, he is obviously the incumbent senator and he's not polling at 50% as an incumbent against a pretty no-name Nella Dominici here, although her father does have name recognition in the state. I guess her last name has some pull. But even still, a lot of these undecideds are probably moving to Dominici here because of how she just has way less name recognition. Republicans will probably go home to her. And oh, actually, this is the okay. Here's okay.
Sorry.
Wait,
Yeah, but
it's
as
fine.
yeah, as I was like, just to look at New Mexico here, yeah, I feel like it could go either way, like in terms of likely or solid, like I think it is in that space between being above or below double digits here for Heinrich. I mean, yeah, he's a pretty popular incumbent. I don't like there's like the polling has only really gotten better for him recently. And like most of the early polling was just Republican internals anyway. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, we're gonna see him. Yeah, like a likely margin is probably a good place to put it. I think he'll win by about like 9 points. Um, Now where do we want to look next here? I mean, we could probably do Pennsylvania next if you like.
Yeah, Pennsylvania probably goes in the same column, and I think the Rust Belt in general is looking pretty good for Senate Democrats, where Pennsylvania, I mean, if you just look at this, you obviously have this really, I think it's a pretty abysmal poll from CNN here, that had Trump and Harris at the same margin as Casey and McCormick, which just doesn't make sense to me on top of just having really bad methodology in my opinions. Aside from that poll, though, Casey's been winning literally every single other poll in the aggregate, and not only the polling, but he's the incumbent. His name is very powerful. He's an electoral juggernaut, honestly, uh, in the past. And McCormick is a loser. He has not won. He's just a very weak candidate in general, and so I think. It's looking pretty likely that Casey's going to take this by more than five. I don't think it's going to be really close.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like Casey has a really good pass record. He won by double digits in 2018. Yeah, and McCormick is just not that strong of a candidate. Like he has too many, again, with the same kind of Dr. Oz problem that we saw in 2022. He has too many ties out of state, that I think are holding him back. And also, yeah, like Casey just being a popular incumbent, it's going to be really hard. So yeah, I think we both agree this is going to be likely Democrat here.
Yeah, and I guess we can, I mean, what do you think about the rest of the Rust Belt? Would you put anything else here in likely D?
I mean, I think Wisconsin is definitely moving into that likely column as well. I mean, it's kind of a similar situation to Pennsylvania. Tammy Baldwin, strong incumbent. Again, like in 2018, she's a strong electoral record, double digits in 2018. The polling right now is great for her. She's running way ahead of Kamala Harris. Her GOP incumbent is like not the best, like no real past electoral record. He's just like a rich guy. Um, so yeah, like I think she just
All
gets
right.
a very big advantage there. Um, yeah, I would also think that's likely. Michigan also could be like I don't know, like Michigan also I think it's like in a space where it could either go lean or likely here. Um, like again, like like I would say, yeah, Michigan, you have Elisa Slotkin, the Democrat, running against a former representative, Mike Rogers, so someone with an actual electoral record. The Republicans definitely have a better candidate here than the other those other two states. But I will say, Elisa Slotkin is doing great in polling, again, running really far ahead of Kamala in some polls. And like I don't know. I'm kind of like iffy on this one whether I want to put it in the lean or likely column. But I will say, like in 2022, Democrats did really, really well in Michigan. So I know Democrats are capable of getting those high margins in Michigan, uh, especially against Trumpy candidates. So I mean, yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with Michigan here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think actually Michigan has a really good argument just to be unlikely. And my reasoning for this is that I don't think the vote split is going to be that big in Wisconsin and Michigan. And I think Wisconsin is just about a toss-up right now. Um, but Baldwin is the incumbent, so she could have a bigger vote split with Harris. But Michigan is probably D+2 right now on the presidential level, and it's going to be easier for Slotkin to get the Harris voter. She doesn't vote D down ballot. She only needs to win a few more percent to get it into likely. I think Baldwin would have to convert quite a few amount of Trump voters actually to actually move it into likely. And so it's interesting because Wisconsin is probably going to be to the right of Michigan on the presidential level. So I think both and likely is fine. Democrat Senate candidates have been doing really well. And so I think now we can move on to the Republicans. Definitely Florida.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely
just
Florida here.
just
Uh,
really quick, I don't even think Florida is up for discussion, really. Rick Scott is going to do very, very well. He's polling well. The state of Florida in general has been really just going right off of a cliff, and the voter registration data backs it up as well in the state. A lot of things show that Republicans are going to do very well in the state, especially the 2022 midterm results. And so I think that's really easy to
yeah,
do.
we
And
both agree on that. Yeah.
we can just move on to Texas. I know you love this race, so you can talk about it.
Yeah, Texas actually, I think as of recently, I'm more confident that this is going to fall into a lean Republican race. I mean, Ted Cruz is the incumbent. I think is definitely still the favorite. Um, but I will say, Colin Allred, the representative, the Democratic representative running against him, has been raising a lot of money. The polling has been it's been like some of it's been pretty close for him. I think the Houston, I think it was YouGov poll that was pretty close for him recently. I'm not sure if it's reflected
It's
here.
down
Oh, it might.
here. It's down here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like
So the
that
five,
one was pretty
yeah.
close recently. So there's been some close polling recently that was particularly polls that were accurate in 2022. And also, I just think, Texas is a state that's been moving left, and especially with those sprawling suburbs that have been generally moving toward Democrats. I think it's definitely going to be a closer race than most people expect. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, Ted Cruz is still the favorite in Texas, and I'd put it, yeah, lean R.
I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to put this in likely. And just because we moved Maryland to safe, we'll just put this one likely to even it out. Um, I think Ted Cruz is not going to win this by under five. I think he is doing pretty well. A lot of these recent polls have him over 50%. And I don't believe in Allred's ability to get all the way into a lean margin. That's a pretty tight race when you get into a lean margin. I think Trump is going to win the state by over five. I don't see Cruz underperforming him by that much in a state where he's already the incumbent. It shouldn't be a race where he does dramatically worse. He's not a popular senator, a very popular senator by any means, but I think he's going to be fine at the end of the day. It's probably going to be a 6 point race or so. And I don't see him doing that poorly. Anyways, let's move on to Arizona and Nevada. Probably Arizona first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Ruben
actually think.
Gallego. Oh, go
Yeah,
on.
I mean, I just want to say with this race, Gallego's like been doing really well in the polling, like pretty much universally. Like he's been just destroying Kerry Lake. And
I agree.
yeah, I'm actually would say that this race is like I would put it in the likely column for Democrats at this point, just because I mean, his polling's really good. It's a state that's been moving left. Um, as a whole, like especially that Phoenix and Tucson area. And also, like Carrie Lake is just like I think it's been thoroughly painted as just an extremist. Uh, so I think that's just and also like her like attacking like John McCain and John McCain voters. I think it's just really not helpful in a state. Uh, the state that's the home of John McCain. So yeah, I think Gallego's picking up a lot of people and is gonna steamroll her come November. Uh,
Agreed. I mean, also Arizona has shown a good tendency for splitting tickets. I think there's going to be a decent amount of Trump Geiger voters, even if you don't expect it. Yeah, Lake is really tied to Trump and Trumpism, but at the end of the day, a lot of people just don't like her, and they're voting against Kamala, and they're going to vote against Lake. And so Trump Geiger voters are going to probably move this into likely. I agree with you, but you've been seeming really bullish on the Democrats here.
hmm.
That's really interesting. I think we'll move on to Nevada here, which is interesting as well. Rosen has continued to overperform in the polling much more than I would have expected. Now she's leading the RCP aggregate by a safe margin, which is really crazy. What thoughts do you have on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is pretty crazy. Like when you look at the RSP average for like the Democratic Senate, like the Senate race in Nevada, and you compare it to the presidential race, it's pretty stark. Like she's outrunning Kamala by 10 points, which is pretty crazy. I take these like the ticket splitting and polling very seriously because like it's the same voters answering the same question. You compare that. We both know that Nevada is going to be close nationally, and seeing that split go 10 points to the favor of Democrats here is a stark thing. So I definitely believe that Rosen is a favorite. Like I I was before this video, I was debating putting this in lean or likely, but I do think at the end of the day, I want to be, I want to err on the side of caution. I want to put it in lean for now, lean Democrat for now. I think there's no doubt that Rosen is the favorite, but just to be safe, I think there's two things I want to know. I think that Sam Brown is not really known yet, and I think as the advertising gets out there, as he gets more well known, this polling will closen up. And the other thing I want to know is Nevada has been generally shifting to the right, slowly but surely. And I think those two facts combined make me want to put this in lean. If we get close to the election day and it's November and we're still seeing a 10-point split, then I would definitely feel safer putting it in a more firm Democratic column. But for now, I think it's good to just leave it in lean.
Yep, agreed. The ticket splitting here is very extreme in the polling. We're gonna see if that carries over because Nevada doesn't split tickets that dramatically, not by 10 points. So we're going to be looking into that. I mean, maybe Rosen is just underrated and she's actually very strong, but we'll see how it goes. Let's go on to the state of Montana, which I think has been sort of floating away from Democrats here. John Tester is the incumbent Democrat senator, but recently you've been getting pretty strong signals from the polling that he is definitely ahead. He's moving the needle more and more to the right, and it seems like he's probably one of the strongest Republican Senate candidates this cycle. A lot of the other ones in the other traditionally swing states are just putting up a horrible fight, and or the Democrat that's already in power there is just steamrolling them off of incumbency. But in this case, I think it's undeniable that he is favored. By how much? I'm still hesitant to move it to likely. I think it's still going to be by a lean margin right now. And Tester
Hmm.
has strength, but I'm going to need to see more evidence before I move this one.
Yeah, I do agree. Tester's popular, but yeah, Montana is just a really, really red state, and I think in a presidential year, he's going to be able to flip it on him.
Yeah, I mean Tester won in 2018, but I think his luck is running out at this point. Let's go to Ohio, our final state, which is a state that we've put as a toss up, basically a tilt in either direction for the past God knows how many cycles of this Senate prediction where we've known that Sherrod Brown is doing a lot better. And we talk about the split tickets and the crossover voters in a lot of these states, right? And how much the ticket's going to split. And Ohio has shown that it is willing to split tickets, especially last cycle in 2022 with the Vance and DeWine split in the governor's Senate race. And I think that they're going to split tickets again here. I'm honestly I've always been bullish on Brown. If you look at our very old predictions, and I mean very old, like videos in 2023, you'll see that I honestly thought that this could have been lean D, and I'm gonna revert back to that right now. Before I was thinking it could be tilt R or tilt D, just based off of how the presidential race is going. But with Kamala looking like she's gonna do better than we expected initially, I think I'm gonna put this in lean Democrat at this point.
Yeah, I would agree here. Moreno was pretty much seen, like I think pretty universally seen as one of the worst picks the GOP could have in the primary, and they selected him. So like like freaking used car salesman vibes, not great on his part. No real positive electoral record. Going up against Brown, who has a crap ton of money, and is generally popular in the state of Ohio. And also, I would also note, like, going in Brown's favor here is like the polling's overwhelmingly in his favor, and a lot of this polling suggests a massive ticket split. Like lots of this polling has Kamala down like 10 points against Trump, and Brown ahead by like up to like 5 points here. So yeah, I think that's enough for us to put it in lean here for sure. Lean
Yep, we're gonna be
Democrat.
doing that. We're going to be doing that. And so it's going to be 51 Republicans, 49 Democrats, with Republicans looking like there's really no way that they don't win the Senate because they would have to lose Montana and the presidency. This is a very high bar for the Democrats to clear. They'd have to win the presidency, and they'd have to hold on all of these swing states, which, I mean, it looks like they will, but it's very possible that Trump carries one of these candidates over the line somewhere in one state or another. And then you have the state of Montana where Tester would have to hold on, um, which just, it looks increasingly unlikely. And then you
Yeah.
somehow have to also win Ohio, where Trump could also somehow carry Moreno over the line. If Trump wins Ohio by 10, as we have in our prediction, Moreno would have to run 10 points behind, which we see as happening right now, but closer and closer to election day, it could get less and less likely. So it's going to be really difficult. And obviously, the Senate really dictates a lot of things, legislation, the Supreme Court. If you win the presidency but not the Senate, the other party still gets to dictate what justices you put on the court and everything like that. So Senate's very important. Um, you know, it is what it is though, because I guess you guys have Susan Collins who needs to run for re-election next cycle, and so maybe she'll be a little nicer. But other than
Yeah.
that, though, at this point, the Republicans look like they're gonna be holding the flipping the Senate. And so that's our prediction for September in the Senate. We'll be looking to do another one in October and of course near election day in November. Um, Make sure to go and register to vote because the deadlines are coming up in a lot of these very important states, even if you are not in a swing state. For example, if you live in Montana, you could still have a down ballot race that's very important that you should be voting for, or local elections as well. So make sure to do that. And make sure to like this video down below, comment down below what you think will happen in the Senate elections, and subscribe to the channel for more videos and ring that bell. And share this video with your family and friends.
See you guys.